Hello once again, everyone, and happy weekend to one and all. Back with you with another oddly timed Winged Eagle podcast this weekend. I'm very, very sorry for the time on Saturdays tending to fluctuate a little bit, but since the COVID stuff has happened, it has not made my work schedule as consistent as it used to be. So I'm dealing with a few things here or there, but I'm always up here on Saturdays, but the time is really changing lately in the past couple of weeks. So I appreciate you guys staying subscribed, staying tuned, and staying on top of this stuff whenever I make these little announcements. So if you are on the East Coast, you're catching me at a prime time. On the West Coast here at 6 p.m., and wherever else you are in the world, it's probably in the morning or something. So welcome once again. This is a jam-packed, loaded episode, and none of it's good. None of it's good. I was rereading my notes here before we went live, and I'm like, yeesh. Somebody put it best in the chat there. It's going to be spicy. It's going to be a spicy episode. On the menu tonight, of course, top story, the number one thing we're going to be talking about first, right off the bat, is all of the WWE COVID news, the big outbreak, and their absolutely disastrous response to the whole thing. They have handled this thing like a bunch of morons, and a lot of people are infected. A lot of people are at risk. It feels like they've done every single thing wrong. And we're going to get into all of that and all of the events transpiring in the last couple of days and all of the positive tests and what that's going to result in, and how it's going to affect TV tapings and talent availability, things like that. So everything is really up in the air. Wrestling has never been any more discombobulated than it is right now. Right here, as we sit, June 27th, 2020, it's literally never been more fucked up, basically, is the best way to put it, because it has not been a pleasant year, not only for the world, but really for professional wrestling. We've taken quite the blow. So we're going to talk about that stuff. And in terms of the wrestling results, wrestling news, we'll get into the Tessa Blanchard firing as well. We'll talk a little bit about Charlotte, some Randy Orton news. I will, the latest on the Speaking Out, got a fun Brock Lesnar story and potential grim news for Velveteen Dream. We'll get into the Wednesday Night Wars this week, but I'm going to do almost like a Cliff's Notes version of the NXT and AEW reviews. We're just going to talk about the key points. Really surprising ratings results this week as well, kind of random out of the blue. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll wrap things up with last night's SmackDown, which half of it was tributed and dedicated to The Undertaker, because a lot of segments and matches planned had to be reworked due to the shitstorm that is currently hitting WWE right now. So along with that, we're also going to preview the full cards for both nights of Fyter Fest and on what's on set already for Extreme Rules Horror Show, whatever the F that means. But the Extreme Rules Horror Show pay-per-view doesn't look horribly bad on paper, to be honest. So we'll talk about the matches there. And that's pretty much going to be it. But it's not going to be your typical Winged Eagle podcast, because there's just so much nonsense going on right now. Every day you look at Twitter, you look at the news sites, it's just more and more and more bad news. So we'll get the pleasantries out of the way first. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat. Got a couple of super chats I need to answer right away. I want to shout out the patrons. And then we're diving in to some of this wrestling news, like I said, which isn't good. I want to shout out my main man, Connor, from the OK Fabe show that popped in with a $10 super chat right off the bat. He is one of the best, nicest guys out there in the world. Check out his channel, subscribe to him, follow him on Twitter, all that good stuff. If you want to get away from negativity, he's your guy. Dan Price, good to see you as well, man, and thank you. What'd you think? Dan, if you guys were here prior to me coming up live, I had a little countdown screen. Dan Price did the artwork, the picture of me there. He did. It looked really good, I thought. So I thought I'd use that this week and see how you guys liked it. George Morris, appreciate the $2, man. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? What's new? Not much is new. A lot of working and a lot of trying to follow and keep up with all of the happenings in pro wrestling, because it's an absolute shit show right now. And then you popped in with 2 more. Skin cancer treatment is going good. That is wonderful to hear. Keep us posted on that. I know you've done so in the past couple of streams, and we all here wish you the best in the Winged Eagle podcast chat. And Austin Kinkle, before I get into the Patreon shout-outs, thank you, man, for the $5. Maybe EO can face Sasha in a concrete crypt match with Bailey inside as a tribute to the Great American Bash 2004. Oh, yeah, where Paul Bearer got drowned in the cement. That was an interesting one. Yeah, right out of the blue. We're going to talk about that later on, too, when we talk about AEW and NXT. But I found it very odd that they just pulled the Great American Bash right out of their ass. Holy shit, AEW has Fyter Fest coming up. We got to combat that some way. So they've put a couple of matches together, and they've just branded it the Great American Bash, which is ironic because Cody and Dustin are over there, and that's their daddy's idea. But whatever. We'll see how the ratings shape up next time. And I want to shout out another George Moore's $2 super chat. I just adopted another cat now. I have two cats. Two cats are the way to go. Because I got a second cat about 2 years after I had Bub, and part of the motivation for getting another cat was so he'd have somebody to kind of play with. Because, if I leave him all day, he's sad. He's just sitting there on the bed, bored, So these two can wrestle, they can play. They are BFFs. They are best buds, brothers, and I don't think they could live without each other. So having two cats is definitely a good idea, provided they get along. A-Level, appreciate you sending me $10. That's very awesome of you. What a crazy wrestling week. Hope all is well with you, Greg. All is well. All is fabulous with me right now in terms of, personal life and work. Just busy, really, really busy. COVID stuff is a gigantic pain in our ass, and I've been absolutely mortified with what's been going on in pro wrestling. But as far as me personally, I'm doing fabulous. Couldn't be better. Thank you, A-Level. And Devlin, there you are, brother. Good to see you, man. Thanks for the 5. Just got back from the beach in time for your stream. Yes, perfect timing. I'm glad that my jacked up time worked out for you. And again, I apologize for my inconsistent times, but I'm always up here Saturday. It's just the time is what's screwing up. So at least I got the day, right? I am off for the rest of the night, but no beer tonight. I just got things I want to do. I want to stay focused and level-headed, so I am drinking Coca-Cola out of a plastic bottle. That's my drink tonight. And Adrian, 10 more from you. Appreciate. Good to see you again here as always. You're always popping in and saying hi. Looking forward to another show. Yes, so am I. So we better get into it here. But before I do, let me just shout out these people real quick. All of my current patrons on Patreon. I appreciate you guys a lot. Dre Leggett, Alan Carter, who I believe is new. I don't know if I've shouted you out before. Reese Jones, Big Mike's Recap Wrestling, Daniel Rodriguez, Scotty Cura, Brandon Yelverton, Alex Reynolds. Oops, I got to go to... Yeah, that's right. Am I right? Yeah, okay. Thought that might not be right. Scott Moss, Michael Tong, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dogs, Kennel, Ryan Rye, Devlin Husband, Steve Myers, The Double ZTV, Claudio Clavedestre, John Rediford, Jordan Karg, Barry MK 400, John Riffle, Josiah Blevins, Mr. Steve, Damien Elwell Sr., Michael Cuomo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, Nathan Walker, and Blake Moran. I know what's wrong with that. I didn't alphabetize them this time. That's why the list looked weird to me. But anyway, thank you again, as always, guys. You keep the channel moving. You keep the machine going. Without you, there is no me. So thank you very much for that. All right. Let me knock one more out here from Millennial Smart before I start going on what I hope will not be very much of a rant. I'm going to try to talk as soundly as I can here, not get too annoyed. But when you read some of this stuff out loud, it really, if I had hair, I'd be pulling it out because it's jaw-dropping, some of WWE's response and some of the things that they're doing in their handling with the COVID stuff. So we're about to get into that. It's going to be juicy. But Millennial Smart, thank you, brother, for the $5. Hey, Greg, do you mind if I ask you to plug my page? Sure. You mean your YouTube page? Absolutely. I feel more comfortable paying you to do so. Just uploaded a vid of the King of the Ring. If the King of the Ring should return. Cool. I'd be interested to check that out. I didn't even know you had a YouTube channel. So yes, absolutely. And you do not have to pay me for a plug. You want a plug, provided I see it in the chat, I will definitely do it. But sometimes I don't see everything. So I will do my best. But Millennial Smart, thank you very much, man. You guys go check out his channel right now. If he talks about wrestling, maybe you check him out. Maybe you like him and you found a brand new YouTube channel on your rotation. And Reese Jones, the most horrifying wrestling match ever. Horrifying. I don't know. I got to give that one some thought. Probably the New Jack and mass transit incident would probably be the most horrifying. But there's probably been some others. All right. So let's get into this because it's gnarly. A few days ago, earlier on in the week, various news sites are reporting a gigantic outbreak in WWE of COVID-19. Now, this is not a surprise. I'll take no shit for 500, Alex, the way WWE has insisted on producing TV, having all of their talent there, the people in the crowd with no face masks. They're not even doing testing. It's taking your temperature at the fucking door before you come in. Oh, if you're coughing, don't come to work kind of thing. You knew that all of the precautions that they were taking so far in the COVID stuff was completely flimsy and was going to break down, and they were heading for severe trouble if they didn't change their ways. Even AEW, who is a much smaller company, upstart company, brand new, with a lot less reach, I believe, than WWE would have. They were doing testing. They were understanding of the threat of this thing. They were being upfront and honest with their audience. They weren't worried about if the people surrounding the ring had a mask on, then it doesn't look good on TV. They, you can still debate whether they should be producing TV as well. There's definitely an argument to be made if they should even be doing this too. But in terms of which company is being safer, AEW by a mile. And WWE, it almost seems like not only were they being unsafe, but they were being careless and they were being reckless. And it felt like everything and the most important thing was about getting the TV out. Business as usual. We're not shutting down no matter what we have to do and whose lives we have to put at risk. And earlier this week when they finally did start the testing, and of course, if you do more tests, you're going to get more positive results. If you do less testing, you get less positive results. Who does that sound like? So maybe that's why they weren't doing any testing, because if they don't do any testing, they're not going to get any positive results. Well, they started the testing, and they got about 2 to 3 to possibly even 4 dozen staff and talent, in-ring talent, some of them, that have been infected with COVID-19. Some of the most notable names that we've heard of has been number 1, Renee Young, which is really frustrating because Renee Young, of course, is married to Jon Moxley. If your significant other has it, guess what? So do you. And Jon Moxley, I think when I was kind of fishing around for more info on that today, seems like he's still scheduled to face Brian Cage at Fyter Fest, and I'm assuming that means he's taken the test and it's come back negative, I guess. But I am really surprised that if Renee Young has it, he doesn't. The only thing that stopped him from getting it is because the two of them work for separate companies and they're probably separated a lot. But, you're not going to live in the same house as somebody and not get this thing. So the fact that Renee Young got it and WWE's negligence could affect a title match in another company's pay-per-view, or show, not a pay-per-view, is really fucked up when you think about it. I mean, Moxley tried to get away from WWE so they would stop screwing him. He's in another company now, and they're still fucking his life up. So I'm hoping that everything is fine with Moxley. He did have to sit out AEW Dynamite this past week. His status against Brian Cage, I think, is still a go as of now. But I'm no doctor. What do you do? What's the right thing? Even if you test negative now, could you possibly test positive later? I don't know how all this shit works. It seems to me that this match could be in slight jeopardy here, but if they're able to make it happen, then that would be great, but I don't want that to be at the expense of anybody else being in danger, and AEW might have to change up a match. So she was the biggest name, and, you feel bad for her. You feel bad for anybody that's gotten this. And one thing I will say, too, about some of this talent, that even though I'm going to be shitting hard on the WWE right now, and I'm really going to be ripping them rather soundly for a lot of their handling of this, it's not completely their fault in terms of the positive cases. Because from what we've heard, the wrestlers really aren't doing their part either. It's hard to go back to your hotel and just quarantine all fucking day. So they're getting antsy, and apparently they've been out hitting bars because Florida is stupid and everything's open. So I think a lot of the wrestlers are not social distancing outside of the TV tapings. They're going to bars, they're interacting and hanging out. So a lot of those positive tests might not have come directly from working at TV. It might have come in their hotel or at a bar or something like that. So you can't put all of the blame solely on WWE for these positive tests, but had they been testing earlier than they would have, you got to think that some of these would have been reduced. And to me, that would have been worth the cost to test. I don't know what the reasoning was for them not testing, unless it's the Trump reason. Less tests means less negative, less positive results. But you would think that WWE wouldn't want that, because they claim in a disgustingly puke-inducing statement that I'm going to read later that the health and safety of their talent and staff is their number one priority. Bullshit. It is. Number one priority, my ass. You lying sacks of shit. So they are so full of it right up to their fucking eyelids, man, this company. And you've got people now like Renee Young. Kayla Braxton has come down with it twice. She had it back in March, and now she's got it again. We love you, Renee. We love you, Kayla. Get better, please. Jamie Noble is another one that's come out and said, hey, man, I have this thing. So good luck, Jamie Noble. We're all thinking about you. And Adam Pearce. And Adam Pearce works closely with Vince McMahon, who's 74 years old. This idiotic company brought Ric Flair to TV the other week. What the hell are you thinking, man? Didn't Charlotte say, let's not use my dad? I'd call my dad and be like, you're not coming here. When the COVID thing first broke out, me and my sisters, we collectively got together and we were forbidding my parents to go on a vacation. They had a trip planned and we're like, you're not going. And luckily they would have not gone, but it was taking them a while to come to their senses. You know, it took a little bit of pressure and then finally, okay, we can't go kind of thing. But if that was my dad, you know, and they're bringing it, it's irresponsible. It's extremely irresponsible. And what's it done for? What are they doing it for? I think the world would have survived without the Ric Flair and Randy Orton segment and Christian segment a couple weeks ago. They could have done that shit without Ric Flair. No need to even be there. And not that an important storyline would be a reason for them to be there, no matter what level of story or how important it is to the show. You shouldn't be there if you're that age. You know, I don't think Jim Ross should be calling AEW matches and things like that. So, especially when it's so needless, you know, when you're putting these people at risk for nothing, you know, that's when it just crosses kind of a different line. It's on like a whole new level. And speaking of other levels, let's talk about how WWE wants this handled. So, bunch of people have tested positive. Rumors that it could be upward of 50 people in total that tested positive. But here's the kicker. WWE will not release fucking anything on this. They will not release the number of people, and they're not really releasing names either. Now, the names thing I can understand. WWE, it's not really their job to release those names. So if they didn't want to release the names, no problem. I can understand that. But I think it's incredibly irresponsible to not inform your talent and staff how dangerous the risk is. They're not even telling their own people. It was Fightful had put up that they were contacted by WWE wrestlers on Fightful Select. WWE wrestlers were contacting them to ask them what they've heard about the number of people who tested positive. That blows my mind. The fact that WWE will not at least inform the people there what they're looking at here. I would demand to know that. I swear to fucking Jesus. Even if I was on 205 Live, I would be banging down Vince McMahon's door. And I'm like, you are telling me right goddamn now how many people in this company have this thing and what the risk is. I got a baby daughter at home. She's 3 months old or something. You know, who knows what these people's lives are like. This ain't worth it, you know, for a company that's putting everything else other than the wrestlers first. You know, and you guys answer me this. Like, if you were a WWE talent, like an undercard guy, like a 205 Live guy, maybe even somebody that's on the cusp of being released, you know, every time there's a spring cleaning, you're worried if it's going to be you. If you're one of those people, what would you rather do? Would you rather, I guess it just depends on your family situation. If you're single and young, maybe you have a little bit less to lose and more risk that you're willing to take. But if you've got a wife and a family and all this stuff, what would you do? Would you say, I want to go home and protect myself and my family? Or would you say, you know, this COVID is knocking out a lot of talent. Some of the top talent is staying home. Other talent is testing positive. This could be an opportunity for me to get on TV and shine and come through, and I might be able to score, you know, in the long run. You know, my career could take off here because of the opportunities I got during the COVID. It's really tough to judge. You know, I think a lot of people would have different answers to that. You know, and there's really no right or wrong answer. If it's a risk you're willing to take, that's fine. But if that risk also involves potentially putting other people at risk, you know, I don't know if that would necessarily be worth it. So I guess it just depends on what your life situation is or what. But, you know, the fact that they're not informing their own people, I can understand not wanting the sheets to know, not wanting us to know so we can blab and gossip about it all over social media and YouTube. I get that. And plus, you know, a confidentiality thing, you know, you don't have to release the names of the talent. But the kicker here, and one thing that I read that made me blow my stack, is that WWE doesn't want its wrestlers who tested positive to tell anybody that they've tested positive. These are independent goddamn contractors. If I tested positive for COVID-19 and I'm a wrestler in WWE, I would tell anybody I fucking choose. This company does not tell me who I can tell, what I can say, what I can put on social media. Suck my balls, WWE. I can't tell anybody. I can't tell my mom. Bullshit. I'm telling her right now. I'll call my mom in front of Vince McMahon and tell her. Maybe they don't mean family members. Maybe they mean publicly. But still, you have no right to tell them what to do with their own health and their own bodies. Oh my God, this company, the nerve of them to say that, to think that they have the right to do that, and for any of these wrestlers to say, oh, I better listen to them. Fuck that company. Shout it from the rooftops. Tell everybody you know. Rent a billboard in the middle of the interstate down the 101 here in California. I have COVID-19. And I'll tell whoever I want. What are they going to do? Fire him for telling somebody else you have COVID-19? Fuck this company. Horrible. Horrible. Absolute disgraceful. You want to hear something really bad? Listen to this bullshit statement that was made by WWE's Executive Vice President of Global Head of Sales and Partnerships, John Brody. He did a conference call with Sports Hiatus a couple days ago. Listen to this, and I quote, "The health and safety of our superstars is first and foremost paramount." Well, first and foremost, bullshit, John Brody. He goes on to say, it comes down to leadership in many ways. Our leader, Vince McMahon, our leader, he said that. Real human. Our leader, Vince McMahon, believes we have a social responsibility, I can't even say that without laughing, to put fans first and to help them get a break from what was coming and what we're in the midst of. We have a responsibility to take them away for a few hours and give them a smile and a chance to feel something other than what they're watching, which is also important on the news. We leaned in to say we're going to put fans first and do everything we can, working with state, local, and federal officials to make sure it's safe for our most important resource, the WWE superstars. And we're going to do whatever we can to deliver content for our partners and our fans. That last sentence is the only piece of truth in that disgusting statement. We're going to do whatever we can to deliver content for our partners. They don't give a shit about the fans. We're just a smokescreen. They have a responsibility to the fans. How delusional is this company? A responsibility? We're going to be fine. We will live without Raw and SmackDown for a few weeks. This company has got millions upon millions of hours of great content, of a video library that's as vast as the universe. They could put any number of things. They could just run reruns. I put on Twitter a few days ago, got a pretty good response despite the typos. I said, instead of just playing Raw on Monday nights, why don't you play the 1998 season of Monday Night Raw on the USA Network? If you got to bleep out some asses and hells and dams and blur out a couple of middle fingers and maybe some bikini matches or something, fine. But if you pick it up right now, you'd be just in time for the build-up to Highway to Hell with Stone Cold and The Undertaker at SummerSlam, Madison Square Garden, that badass music video, right off the heels of the crazy Hell in the Cell at King of the Ring with Foley and Taker. It was a great time, man. You put 1998 Raw in place of Raw for the next few weeks, how the fuck are the ratings going to be worse? Answer me that. They want to put a smile on my face? I'll tell you what puts a smile on my face. 1998 Raws. And not putting your current superstars at risk. That puts a smile on my face. You know what doesn't? 3 hours of shitty wrestling with a severely depleted roster, with a creative team that has been put in a blender and then a dryer, eaten by a dog and puked out. Empty arena, plexiglass around the place. You're in a damn gym. Wrestling needs a nap. Wrestling needs a nap. This is bullshit. How can they not shut down here? You know, Florida, as dumb as they are, I feel like they're on the verge of making some changes here. They have got some seriously bad numbers because everything they've done has been stupid, which is why wrestling has been able to survive in that state. And they're having a record number of new cases per day. At what point are we looking at another shutdown here? I'm worried about California. We got some cases climbing here too. And I'm starting to wonder if I should maybe head to the store and do another giant stock up here. You know, because this is not even close to over. I think it's only getting worse, not better. We haven't gotten to that getting better part yet. And it's just, it's mind-blowing. So how can they stay open at this point? You know, when you're going to continuously have positive cases, because they're now testing every day, by the way. Apparently there was talk about them testing after tapings as well. Not sure if that's happening, but WWE is doing testing now, which means it's not like the cases are going to stop. They're going to keep seeing new cases, which means more of their, you know, if you get in-ring talent infected, you're constantly booking these shows and these pay-per-views and mishmashing up the matches and changing things last minute. Last night on SmackDown was a mess because they had to drop a couple of segments, and then they added the whole tribute to The Undertaker thing. You know, they're flying by the seat of their pants here, and it's not fun. It's just constant source of stress, I would think, for them. The fans don't know what the hell they're going to see. We don't need them to survive. We're going to be just fine. They act like we can't figure out something else to do on Monday nights for 3 hours to distract us. You can just go on the goddamn network and watch any number of wrestling shows or events or documentaries that you want. It doesn't have to be Raw. It doesn't have to be a crappy show on Raw. There's TV shows. There's movies. There's all sorts of other things to distract you. It's not WWE's responsibility to distract people from COVID. If we want a distraction, we'll find a damn distraction. We don't need your help. And it's just so ridiculously transparent because they're so almost joyfully full of shit. Like they know they're so ridiculous. You can't say something like that. Like this John Brody guy, there is absolutely no way. I mean, if he believes this, he is crazy. But if you really buy into this theory that Vince McMahon's going around telling all his employees, you guys have to work because we have a responsibility. Remember that other statement they released a while back that WWE is woven into the fabric of society? They are crazy. They are crazy. So up their own asses. I think they think they're so much greater than what they are. You know, WWE is a huge company. They've grown leaps and bounds, even if the ratings and the interest isn't as much as it was in the Attitude Era and the Rock and Wrestling days and the, you know, really height of their popularity during different eras. You know, they're technically money-wise are much bigger than even that. But this idea that they're woven into the fabric of society, that they have a responsibility to us, to entertain us, to distract us, like we can't pick up a damn remote control or our phone and click a laptop on our own. We need WWE to hold our hands through this. Like what a cheap ass excuse that you know the fans are going to literally laugh at. There's not one fan anywhere, even the biggest WWE fanboys there is nobody sitting at home saying, oh, thank God WWE's here to keep me through this. They really believe that shit? Especially now in the information age and the internet age, when we have access to all sorts of footage on the WWE network. This isn't like when I was a kid growing up in the 80s when you had 14 channels to choose from and you didn't have any internet or access to everything. It was a VCR or a projector or something like that. You couldn't just watch anything you wanted. Maybe, I still think even back then it would be ludicrous to say something like this, but at least then that might be one thing you look forward to every week, a 3-hour live wrestling show. You know, but now it's 2020. We don't need this shit. I think the fans would be much happier, and like I said, we'd have a smile on our face if we can know that all the wrestlers that we love so much to watch go out and entertain and perform, I think we'd all be happy knowing that they're home safe with their families. That would make me a lot happier than watching them in the ring right now wrestle. So WWE are fools. And it's not only embarrassing, but it's insulting that they say things like this. Like they can just be so blatant with their bullshit, knowing that literally the dumbest of the dumb are the only ones that are really going to subscribe to any of these statements at all. So I hope they get shut down. Not permanently. I don't want wrestling to go anywhere, but I think in light of everything right now, like I said, I think wrestling needs a nap. We've gone through the speaking out movement. COVID has wreaked havoc on all of our lives and done a number on professional wrestling. You've had so many horrible things happen in the past few months. I don't think there's anything wrong, and there's no shame at all in taking a little bit of a break. A lot of people have been using the hard reset phrase, and a lot of companies are doing that. Maybe that's just what wrestling needs in general, you know, hard reset. And I don't think any of us would miss it. WWE has millions of different options that they can use to fill 3 hours on USA and 2 hours on Fox. There's all sorts of things they can do. It doesn't have to be new content. You can make an exception in the face of a pandemic that, look at FS1's replaying like WrestleManias and stuff. So if you just replayed some old shows, I know other shows, like talk shows, I think, they're doing more like at-home stuff. But I think a lot of them are showing reruns, probably reruns of Ellen. I'm sure all the soap operas are doing reruns. Any sort of like daily show that's on, or weekly show, I would assume is, doing that. And so there's not, we don't even have sports. Baseball's trying to come back to play a 16-game season or something like that. But, they are just, this idea that we can't function without them, I think, is horrendously insulting. And I'm not a part of the WWE fan club right now. Let's just say that. But I think every single thing they've done has been fucked up. Last night, it was at least promising to see some masks in the crowd, because there was talk that WWE didn't like the masks for TV, which is silly, because WWE, if they want to help influence people, they should have every single person out there in a mask, just so people can see it at home and just try to normalize it, because you still have fucking morons like dumb shits like Low Key. Did you see what that moronic shit pig posted earlier today on Twitter? This is the type of stupidity that is still out there. So I don't think it sends a good message if you're WWE to have a bunch of people on camera not wearing a mask in a social situation. So finally last night we saw some masks out there. Still don't know why Rick Budenharder or whatever his name is not wearing one, and a couple of others. I guess it's optional, but it shouldn't be. If you're in public, put on a goddamn mask. Your imaginary bullshit freedom that doesn't even exist is not threatened by you wearing a mask. It's a minor inconvenience at best. And all these people screaming all these videos of Karens and Trader Joe's losing their shit because they have to wear a mask. Hey, you dumb Democrats have to wear, what the hell is going on? If you don't wear a seatbelt in your car and you get pulled over, you get a ticket. Is your freedom threatened? No. If you can do that, if you can go to the DMV and get a license before you get behind the wheel, why can't you put a fucking mask on your big fat snout? I don't understand people at all. So I don't think that was a very good message to be sending if you're WWE, and I'm at least somewhat happy to see that they have had a few masks in sight yesterday on SmackDown. So we'll see now how this goes. They're testing. They are still vigilant. They are not, there's no plans, according to anything that I've read so far, of WWE even considering shutting down. So even though every single person and their mother is telling these morons to shut this shit down for a little while, quarantine everybody, take the right precautions, and hang tight. Just hang tight. It's beyond now, because I think we heard this originally when we were talking about the first shutdown. WWE might have to put on shows because of contracts with USA and Fox, but, we had heard that's really not going to be a factor. If they're forced into a shutdown, they're not going to lose their money or whatever. So they can still put WWE content on in these time slots. It will be fine. And at first when we were talking about it, it was more just speculation, what if. Nobody really thought running reruns or running any number of things from their vast tape library in the place of Raw or SmackDown. None of us really thought that was an option. But now now you got, 25% of the company with a positive COVID test. You're either going to run out of talent or the state's going to shut you down or something. But I just think that it needs to stop. It needs to stop for a while. Maybe there's still holdout hope for the fall. So just for everybody's safety, I just think it would be better if they just shut down. But I guess that's not the way Vince operates, and he's got a lot of people thinking the same way he does. And WWE, you need to be better than this. You're the WWE. You always tout how big you are and how far your reach stretches. Act like it. Act like it. You're in bed with the president. Vince's wife is in politics. They're so powerful, it seems, yet they can't do the simplest things. And they handle themselves so poorly, and you just clearly see where their motives are. They put all their resources and their baskets into making money and sucking their own dicks. That's all they do. And then when it comes to the fans, they release these flimsy statements that they put the superstars first. Well, no, you don't. You weren't. If you put the superstars first, you've been testing since day one. So right off the bat, that very first sentence of that statement is provably untrue. And they say it anyway. Kind of reminds me of somebody. We'll leave that for another time. Anyway, that's it on them. WWE, do better. Do better. Absolutely disgusting. I didn't think I'd rant that hard on them. Because I sometimes think the ranting gets overboard. Everybody on Twitter, well, all this was happening the last couple days. Watching everybody with their evil, mean tweets, rushing up on YouTube to do a video, just blasting them. I didn't think I was really going to be that hard on them until I started reading the shit out loud. And then it's like, it really hits you. I'm like, if I was there, I wish, if I could find a genie and rub it, I would wish just for one day to be a top star in the company. I would wish to be John Cena or something. And I would go in there. I would kick that door down. If I knew I was some unfireable talent, and I would cut the promo of promos on everybody in charge there, and I would take to social media and tell everybody what an idiotic company that I work for is. I would put it on Instagram. I'd do a YouTube video. I would shout it from the rooftops how disappointed I was and how they should be doing better and they should be ashamed of themselves. And if you don't like it, WWE, fire me. Fire me. I got millions of dollars in the bank. I don't need you. Man, what a mess. Anyway, that's enough of that. Before we get into the Tessa Blanchard stuff, I'm going to cruise over here to the chat. What's our audience in here? Oh, not bad. Can you guys do me a favor? Smash that thumbs up for me. I would very, very much appreciate it. Get them likes up. And if you're not subscribed, please do. We just passed 30,000 subscribers on the channel, finally. And let's try to get that up to 50. That's our next goal. Hopefully one of you guys has 19,999 friends you can tell about me, and we'll get up there. Let me go to the chat. I might have missed like a bunch of stuff here. Excuse me. Pardon my coughs. All right, I'm going to knock out these super chats, and then I'll get back into more news. And I think mostly the ranting should be over. Oh, I'm glad you guys enjoy that rant. Sorry about that. I usually don't do that. I really apologize for the language. I've actually been trying to get better on the cursing and stuff, but that was kind of so. Let's pull a Danhausen for the rest of the episode here and try to keep that to a minimum. And I got all my swearing out during the rant. We're not going to do that anymore because we're adults here. We got to be better. Got to be professional. If you want crazy people, there's a couple of those people on YouTube you can go to. I'm not one of those people. Where did I leave off on the chats that are super? All right, Reese Jones, I got you, my brother. I still got to think about something else other than that New Jack Mass Transit match. Ike Moore, thank you, man, for the $5. I can totally see some talent thinking Roman's out, Becky's out, Owens is out, Charlotte's out, COVID or no COVID. This is my chance to shine. It's tough, exactly. I would like to think that I would say no, F this, I'm going home, but who knows? I mean. If I put myself where I was when I was 20 years old or 21 years old, 22, 23, most of those years I was single, nothing to lose really, young, good health, might be my chance, So every situation is different. That's why I was curious what you guys would think. What would you do in that situation? It's not because it's not the wrong answer to say I might take advantage of the opportunity. It's a risk, yes, but if the risk pays off, I'm going to look back and say, thank God I took that risk, So I'm certainly not implying that saying, oh, yeah, I would take advantage of that opportunity is wrong. If that's what you want to do, then do it. Who's next? A-Level, thank you for another one, man. Appreciate 10 more bucks from you. It's sad and disgusting what WWE is doing. Either the wrestlers have to choose between their jobs or their health. Yeah, and that's not fair. They have millions and millions of dollars, all to increase Vince's wallet. Yeah, and it's beyond Vince's wallet at this point. One thing you got to remember, it's like, I know it's fun to say Vince is greedy and everything, and he is to a degree, but it's really not about Vince's individual greed. At this point, it's about the survival of the company and the greed of the shareholders and stockholders and everybody that really kind of makes the decisions. This company has to thrive for it to survive type of thing. So I don't think Vince is too concerned with like running out of money. He's never going to be broke. He's going to be dead soon. But the family is never in any danger of not having money. It's the company's survival and maintaining that bottom line, maintaining a certain level of profitability that they have to have. And that's the number one thing. It's not even necessarily greed. It's what they have to do, kind of as a big, gigantic company like this. So that's where the priority was. So even though I think, the Vince greedy thing is a little bit misdirected, it's still all part of the same underlying theme that it's all about making money. And it's all about the company's survival. And that is what their number one priority is. And they are, they're completely the opposite of that in their BS statements. We care about our wrestlers. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's proven right now. So, yeah, it's just a matter of, keeping the company going and keeping those profits. So every time when they do those conference calls every quarter, they have good news to report. That's their motivation. That's their priority. And nothing else literally in the world matters to them. Tito, you all right? I got a coughing cat, and he's laying in my microphone cord. Come on, buddy. Please don't unplug us here. We got a big podcast going on here. But thank you for that A-level. I appreciate it as always. Did I get them all? No. Terry Allen Jr., thank you, man, for $5. Matt and Chris Jericho, which alter their characters effectively throughout careers. Oh, which altered their characters more effectively throughout their careers? Matt or Jericho? Probably Jericho, just due to the level of star he is. Matt did some fun things. He was version 1 Matt and then broken Matt, and had a fun career, but, really you can't argue the level of star either guy was. But maybe Jericho didn't reinvent himself to the level Matt did. Jericho maybe changed his look up a little bit here and there, but he was always still kind of Jericho on the mic and shit, where Hardy changed his character a little more. So I think maybe Matt made more dramatic changes, but Jericho still remained the better star in that one. Where are we at? Did I get them all? Okay, cool. I got them all. Let's get into the next big piece of news. This one is involving Tessa Blanchard. Now, it was funny when this came out. Well, let's talk about it first. First of all, Tessa Blanchard, for those of you who have not heard, has been fired, so to speak, from Impact Wrestling. She's their champion. I can't recall anybody firing a champion before. Closest thing we've come to that has got to be the screw job. But she's been stuck in Mexico. She can't travel because of the COVID. And apparently the story was that Impact had requested some promos, her to cut some promos and send them to them. And she didn't want to, or they couldn't agree on price. Like basically she wanted her regular rate that she would charge for, working to do the promos, and they couldn't really agree on that, and her contract was coming up at the end of June anyway, so that was kind of the end of it. They terminated her contract a few days before it was going to expire, and she was set, I believe, to defend the title in some giant multi-wrestler match. She's now been stripped of the title, and she's gone, and she's a free agent. Now, in the light of all of these speaking out movement news, I think a lot of people were under the assumption that maybe something else came out about Tessa, because if you remember, a few months back, right before she won the title, like just a couple of days before she was set to win the title, it came out that she was, being accused of making racial comments, of bullying people, and multiple women came out with stories about what an asshole she was. Kind of owned up to it a little bit. They tried to move on. A lot of us thought that they might change their plans, because at that point, it was crystal clear she was going to be winning the title. But a lot of fans thought that Impact might change their minds now and not go through with it, but they did, and the whole thing wound up ending badly anyway. So she's gone, stripped of the title. She's a free agent, and now there's talk. Where do you guys think she would land, and where do you think she'd be better? AEW or WWE and NXT? I think she'd be better in AEW because she could really bring that division up. It can use all the help it can get. But it feels like she's got enemies in both promotions now. She's got some heat. And if she went to WWE, they might make her eat a few plates of shit before she got on the map and started doing anything of substance. But I'd love to see her in WWE because of the matches she can have with Bayley or Sasha or Charlotte or Baszler or Ripley or any number of women. Where in AEW, her dad's already there, so that would make sense. And plus, she would be almost at the top of the card instantly upon arriving. She'd be right up there with the Britt Bakers and the Hikaru Shidas and the Nyla Roses and things like that. So I don't know. I'm a little funny about how I feel about Tessa Blanchard. I always liked her until some of those stories came out, and I know there's the innocent but proven guilty crowd out there, but when you have that many stories, are all these people conspiring to lie and bring this woman down, or did she really do those things? What do you think is the truth here? I'd be willing to bet on all the people coming out with these stories. Why would so many people lie about the same thing? So when you read some of the details, they're like, God, she sounds like an asshole. So if she's not that way anymore, there's been lots of people that have been assholes in their career. Shawn Michaels was a colossal prick. And if you held him, accountable for the prick he was in 96 all the way up until his retirement, you would have never enjoyed the guy. So with Tessa, is she not a dick anymore? Hopefully not. Has she learned her lesson? Has she learned to be respectful and treat people with respect and just be kind and not be a son of a bitch? I know I said I was going to stop swearing. I don't know. I guess we'll wish her luck, right? We'll wish her luck. Good luck, Tessa, wherever you land. I'm sure you're going to land somewhere. But I think maybe AEW would be a better spot for her in terms of her career. Anyway. Speaking of women, mentioned her a minute ago, Charlotte. I was way wrong on this. We saw this past Monday night, she was supposed to take on Asuka. We were freaking out because, oh shit, could she really win the title here? And I was thinking, no, they would just do some weird schmoz and Asuka can continue her deal with Nia Jax or something, since that match kind of ended funny at Backlash a while back. But prior to Charlotte's match with Asuka, she's doing a promo in the ring with Nia Jax. They start fighting. She gets attacked, injures her shoulder, which has to put her in the match with Asuka later on, kind of like injured. She's got the athletic tape on. She fights very hard. We were talking on Monday night that it feels like they're doing a babyface turn with Charlotte because of the way she's fighting. And I was hoping on Monday night that they weren't going to do like a DQ or a count out or have Nia Jax run in. They already did that with these two on Raw a couple weeks ago. So I really wanted to see a finish there. And since they injured Charlotte in the previous segment, have Asuka beat her. And she did. Luckily, Asuka tapped out Charlotte. That was awesome. And to me, it didn't matter. Yeah, Charlotte got injured and WWE protected her, but at least they didn't protect her in the way where Asuka doesn't get the win and it winds up damaging Asuka, So at least they did the right thing there. And then backstage, she's attacked by Nia Jax, furthering the injury more. So in the Raw review on Monday, by the way, if you want to hear all my thoughts on Raw, the review is up from a few days ago. You can check that out on the channel right now. And we talked about what I thought was going to be, and something that I requested from WWE for quite some time, and that is an angle or a storyline or a program with two women that doesn't involve the title. The only thing that we've really seen is Sonya and Mandy. That whole situation on SmackDown, it seems like you have the title programs always, but everything that happens underneath that are just random matches with no real storyline or anything going on. They're just random matches. Oh, this week it's Lacey Evans and so-and-so, and over on Raw it's Natalya and this person, and this is just what we're going to do every week, and they don't pay attention to the stories that's going on underneath the title. So the fact that they're doing what they're doing with Sonya and Mandy and Otis and the whole deal over on SmackDown has been really promising. But on Raw, you don't really have that. So when I saw Charlotte and Nia kind of doing their thing, I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be our match at Extreme Rules, Charlotte versus Nia Jax. But as it turns out, what we saw on Monday was an injury angle. Charlotte's going to be gone for a while to deal with some injuries, and she's reportedly not going to be back until 2021, which is surprising considering they just lost Becky, and I even kind of speculated if this was even true or not. But all the, the more credible news sites that I talk to, or I listen to and read, are all reporting the same thing here, and I think that's good. First and foremost, get well, Charlotte. Get better. I'm glad that she's taken some time off. Number one, she'll be quarantined and she'll be away from this nonsense. And she wrestles hard, man. Like Charlotte or not, she is an absolute machine. And sometimes you need to be rested. Rest up your bones, your joints, kind of reset yourself. And I think this is a good move because we've had overexposure problems with Charlotte. The fans never shut the fuck up about how bad they hate her. I swore again, I'm sorry. And she gets a lot of heat. In my mind, most of it's undeserved. The fans have a point about a couple of things, but like everything, like with the Cena stuff and the Roman stuff, they take their anger, their hate, and their rationale to such an extreme level that they wind up looking dumb, and the original argument and the original complaint and critique that actually has merit is now buried under a bunch of BS. So I never really get on the bandwagon of really heavily, oh, she gets everything because of her dad and she doesn't deserve it. Shut up. You know not of what you say. But I do understand that Charlotte, or WWE, definitely has a Charlotte fetish. And like they have a Roman fetish, and they push the hell out of her, and it gets annoying for the fans, and that's just the way wrestling is. So we wish Charlotte well here on the channel. I'm always going to be a Charlotte fan, much like John Cena. I feel vindicated. All those years that I defended John Cena, I told you guys that I was going to be sitting here one day in the future saying, I told you he wasn't the Antichrist. And I feel the same way about Charlotte. And when John Cena goes into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to be a very proud wrestling fan that I said it since day one. And even the people that hated him the most are going to be applauding him when he goes in the Hall of Fame. Charlotte is the same thing. So unfortunately, I won't be proved right for 10 more years, but take my word for it. I've been right before. So anyway, the fact that she's gone is actually kind of good. Not that I want her, I wish her best with her health. I'm not saying I'm happy she's injured or happy that she has to take time off, but her being away from the fans, for her being off of TV for a while, I think will give the fans a break from her, a much needed break from her, and they can forget about their hate. We got enough negativity right now. We don't need more of this stuff. So if we can get her gone for a while, the fans will not have that to bitch about, I guess. So, and that's going to be good. And it gives opportunities with Becky and Charlotte now out. You know, we still don't know where Shayna Baszler is. I have no idea where Bianca Belair is. I think they got rolled up in a ring mat and stuffed in the storage room somewhere, and they got forgotten about. But wherever they are, dig them up, find them, put them on TV because they're both awesome. So people like Bianca, people like Shayna, people like Asuka, you know, can all have a chance to shine here. And now with Charlotte gone and Becky gone, guess who that leader of the women's division is? Asuka and Bayley and Sasha. But really, you know, Asuka moves up a couple of pegs there, you know, with Queen 1 and Queen 2, Becky and Charlotte being out of the picture now. And Asuka's my favorite female on the entire roster. All three brands. Asuka's my girl. So I'm happy for her. And I think that now that she's going to be taking on what is going to be a great match against at Extreme Rules against Sasha Banks, I still think Asuka is going to go into SummerSlam as champion unless they do a champion versus champion match with Bayley and Sasha, which actually is a possibility. But I'm kind of hoping you just do Bayley and Sasha for the SmackDown title. Asuka remains champion to take on probably Shayna Baszler and probably to drop the belt at SummerSlam. And that's all assuming, of course, we even have wrestling by the time we get to August. But anyway, for right now, Charlotte's gone, and Becky is pregnant, and I think that really opens up the door for a lot of advancement for the women. So best of luck to all of them. Randy Orton also, I want to talk about him because according to Wrestle Talk, Orton has actually pitched the idea of working a few matches in NXT. And we saw him tweet, kind of have a Twitter war with Tommaso Ciampa right after In Your House. And I even said right after that on the podcast, I said, what's stopping Randy Orton from going down to NXT and having a match with Ciampa? What's stopping Ciampa from being called up to the main roster now, since everything is being filmed out of the PC anyway, and having that match with Randy Orton? That's a match we could actually see. And if you watch the Taker documentary, Randy Orton was in the documentary talking about how he respected The Undertaker for making visits to NXT, working with the young guys, passing his knowledge and passing stuff off to other wrestlers. So if Randy Orton wants to, practice what The Undertaker's preaching there, he can do the same thing. I mean, Randy Orton is another guy, much like Cena, much like Charlotte, that I've had a lot less negative things to say about over the years than the other fans. I remember a time where Orton was right up there with Cena in terms of the most hated. Why? Because he won a lot of titles, and he was always the champion, and fans just could not stand it. So, but I understood a little bit. Like, Orton got me upset a couple times when, he was given the world. I mean, I thought he at one time was going to be bigger than John Cena, but I think his, personal issues and his maturity kind of played a role in him not becoming John Cena. And he had a couple of suspensions, and he's had some issues and, drug problems and things like that. Now that he is in the end of his career, now he's a veteran, all that immature behavior is behind him. Now he's got a more stable home life, and he's just more professional. And now I feel like he's got so much to offer. And despite all the titles that he's won, all the success that he's had, all the pay-per-view main events that he's had, I think arguably he's doing the best work of his career right now today. Arguably. You guys can agree or disagree with that. And if he's done better work in his career, please tell me when that was, because this is pretty good stuff. And if he does, since Edge is out for a while, if he does make a little trip to NXT, think of the matches, man. God, Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa, Karrion Kross. That's the match I'd do eventually. Maybe not right away, but imagine that feather in the cap of Karrion Kross if he puts down the Viper. And plus, also Randy Orton apparently is the front runner to be taking on Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. Drew McIntyre's got a little in-between match here at Extreme Rules against Dolph Ziggler, which if he drops the belt to Dolph, I will sell my belongings and walk right into the forest and not come back. So I'm assuming, that McIntyre will make it into SummerSlam as champion to take on somebody. And Randy Orton, really, is there any better option right now currently in terms of what Randy Orton has done? I thought the Edge feud was going to be so much about Edge and so little about Randy Orton. And in a way, it was the opposite. I mean, Randy Orton really shined in this when, to me, he was kind of an afterthought. To me, it was all about, holy shit, Edge is back. This is awesome. So happy to see him. So unbelievably grateful that he's back kind of thing, and it's going to be great. And Orton has been the one that's really in pro. Edge has too. Edge's promos have been off the hook, but Orton is just, he's not been forgotten in this feud and in this whole angle. And now I think he should go in to SummerSlam to face McIntyre. If he does go to NXT, does he go prior to that or does he go after that? I don't know. But the fact that he's open to it and has apparently pitched the idea, I would do it. And as long as, like, I want there to be a line that's not crossed. One thing I think we're all worried about is NXT's identity being compromised here. You've heard rumors of Vince McMahon wanting to take on a bigger role, be more involved in NXT, and he's going to want to do things to it, especially if they keep losing in the ratings to AEW on a consistent basis. If they poison it with the main roster talent, that can be a problem. But the main roster talent coming in one at a time, two at a time for a couple of spots is not a big deal, and I welcome that. We've seen that all the way to the beginning. I remember when Cesaro went down there to work with Sami Zayn for a couple of matches, how good that stuff was in 2015. Charlotte was there for a cup of coffee with the title to have some fresh matchups, and then she was out of there. They had some guys come in for a Survivor Series. Seth Rollins made an appearance. I think maybe even Roman did too. But it was just like kind of a one-time thing, and then they were out of there. It didn't do any damage. So if Randy Orton maybe pulls a Charlotte, and he goes down there, maybe not to win a title, but just to work with some guys a little bit, maybe hang in NXT and be on NXT TV for 1 month or 2 months, I don't think is a bad thing. Because you know he's not going to stay there forever. He's Randy Orton. You know, unless Randy Orton, if he retires and Randy Orton winds up taking a job at the PC, I wouldn't be surprised if Orton does that after his career. You know, and so, you know, I think Randy Orton could maybe be the new William Regal years to come. He could be the new, commissioner in NXT and maybe get in the ring every now and then when he's 50 years old or whatever. So, you know, Orton going to NXT, I would love it, love it, love it. He's not going to be able to go down there and just job to everybody. So, you know, maybe you give him a couple of wins there, but I would love to see him 1 week on NXT in the main event. Let's say it's Orton and Tommaso Ciampa in the main event on Wednesday. 1 week on NXT. Grueling match, 3 commercial breaks, near falls out the butt. In the end, Orton hits the RKO on Ciampa, pins him, stands there in the middle of the ring while his music is playing, and then the lights go out. Scarlett comes out. Orton, Karrion Kross. Oh my God. Especially if Karrion Kross is the champion by then. Would be even better. We'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, the idea of Orton going to NXT is very attractive to me, and I'm 100% for it. A couple of other news and notes before we get into AEW, NXT, and SmackDown. Not too much more on the speaking out movement other than lots and lots and lots of stories continuing to be released. So, like I said in my last 3 podcasts, I invite you to go read these stories for yourself and listen to the victims and, you know, make your own judgments, because It's really not my place to repeat any of the graphic details of stuff that's going on. But there's one thing I am going to repeat because it's hysterical. So, an excerpt of a Terri Runnels interview with Wade Keller from the Pro Wrestling Torch, I think, from 2004 has surfaced. And it involves a story regarding Brock Lesnar. Now, before I read this and laugh about it, I want you guys to know right up front that Terri had said that she did not feel abused or threatened or sexually assaulted in any way. This was not a traumatic thing for her. This is not something she's had lost sleep over, had nightmares over. It's really not affected her at all. Terri's a tough chick. She's probably seen and done a hell of a lot worse, especially during her days with Dustin. I think she's unoffendable kind of thing. So she made that clear that what happened didn't cause her harm or pain. If it did, I would not be making light of this situation. So just so you know that right now, I'm going to be laughing my ass off at this, but if Terri Runnels had been permanently scarred by this and this caused her a great deal of pain, I would not be making light of this situation at all. But I have to redo this, okay? Because it's great. We need something to lighten the mood here. Okay, so anyway, this is a transcript from just a snippet of this interview from 2004 describing an incident that happened with Brock in 2002. So this would have been right when Brock came into the company, right before he won the title. She starts off by saying, "Ew!" Exclamation point. You know what? I'll tell you something because this is something I've never told before, but I'll go ahead and rat on him. I have no respect for him whatsoever, talking about Brock Lesnar. The reason being, and maybe this is because he was young and dumb, and we've all had our young and dumb moments. When he was first in the business, I will never forget we were at a pay-per-view in England, and the girls' dressing room and some other little room were right next door to each other. Dustin was in this other room watching a monitor, and beside Dustin was Brock. He was in the middle. To the right of Brock was Curt Hennig, and I walked next door to say something to Dustin, I forget what, and Brock was sitting there in a towel, and Brock opened the towel and exposed himself. This is where it gets good. And boy, was that a little red penis. I have never seen something so red. I didn't know skin could be pink like a mouse, like a mouse. I just didn't understand that could happen. But it was this pink thing. I remember thinking, number one, well, why would you want to show that? And number two, I remember thinking how disrespectful it was. I carry myself as a lady and have for many years. That's debatable, but that's a great story. See, and Terri is the type of chick that she's not going to sweat that or anything. If that was somebody else, like just some young, innocent intern that was there, trying to get a college education, and that idiot did that to her, I'd be the first one in line to cancel Brock. But luckily, he did it to a thick-skinned chick who can handle that type of stuff and blew it off. It's just an idiotic, dumb move by Brock. But I just loved her description of it. That was so funny to me. And she's right. Why, if you look like that, why would you be flat? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. And in something a little bit more serious than the Brock news is the latest on the Velveteen Dream. He is not having a good week. Of course, he fell short in his title match at In Your House in the Backlot Brawl, and there was a lot of speculation as to his WWE status prior to that, since some of those accusations came out about him exchanging messages with underage girls and boys. And I was a little surprised that he survived the first wave of that, and that they still kept him on TV and they still kept him in that title match. Now it seems like more things are being released. And again, you can look this stuff up, find out for yourself. If you want to say innocent till proven guilty, when you're reading text messages and you're hearing his voice on a voicemail, I don't really know what else you want. What's your definition of proof then? Because it seems pretty proven to me. And there have been rumblings that his days are numbered. That's been the phrase been tossed around by a couple of different news sites. And he was actually also in a car accident yesterday and was hospitalized. He was released from the hospital. Didn't see any footage of the accident. I don't know how bad the accident was, if it was a fender bender and hospital was precautionary, or if he actually maybe got hurt And, when it was released later and needed some actual medical care, regardless of what's going on there, we're glad to hear that Velveteen Dream is okay and is released from the hospital and is apparently going to make a full recovery from this. However, his WWE days might be in grave jeopardy. I've been eyeballing the news all day to make sure he wasn't released before me going live, and I haven't seen that news yet. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, not looking good for old Dream, which is a shame because how old is that kid? 12? I mean, he's so stupidly young. He had 20 years ahead of him in the ring. WrestleMania main events, Hall of Fame, more championships than he could count, and it's likely gone. For what? Getting your rocks off on a teenager? Man, I love wrestling, but I feel dirty. Absolutely dirty. Anyway, before we get into NXT and AEW, we're going to talk about, like I said, do a more Cliff's Notes version here. I'm not going to go through everything on the show because there was just more material to get into with other stuff. And I think we're going to try to keep the wrestling news to a little bit more of a minimum than we do in other weeks. But before I do that, let me cruise over here, make sure I'm not missing out on anybody's super chats. I really hate it when I miss them, and then I get a tweet or a DM later say, hey, you missed my thing. And I'm so sorry. So sorry. I think Devlin, that's it. You're the only one. Okay, good. Nice. Appreciate the $5. At least Vince can't ruin Dream's career. He did it himself this time. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I have been worried about, if none of this was going on with Velveteen, you'd have to be thinking about main roster at this point, right? I think he'd be best on Raw. And now that could potentially be completely over unless WWE just makes him invisible for a while. I mean, if they did that, if they just completely made him disappear, kept him around but didn't use him at all, and didn't bring him back until everything is back to normal. I'm talking months and months in the future. Fans are back. COVID's no longer a threat. We get WrestleMania next year, all this stuff. Then maybe bring him back because after all of the speaking out stuff, all the other crazy crap that we've heard about talent, after wrestler, all over the world, spanning all promotions, maybe, his is something that could eventually blow over, but it's so gross, it's going to be really hard to forget something like that. So we'll see. I mean, we got 2 days from now is Monday. Back to a weekday. Maybe that's when we get some announcement prior to Raw that Velveteen has been released. I don't know. We'll see. We'll monitor the situation. Good to see you, Deshaun Robertson. Thank you for the $2. Orton's 09 run. I was going to say that. Feuds with Triple H, Cena, and Batista. He had some good ones. You're right. And I think in 09, some of that stuff with Triple H was really good when Stephanie got involved in the home invasion stuff. That was all really good. But was it better than now? Orton just seems like much more of a seasoned pro now. I think maybe I can appreciate his work now because of where he is mentally and how he really seems to be making the best of the situation. So I guess maybe in a way I'm proud of Randy Orton, because when he was young and cocky, I didn't really foresee him being this type of veteran. And the fact that he is a pleasant surprise for me. I've always been Team Orton. Dude's always been money. And he's an absolute machine when motivated. That's for sure. What are we going to start with this week on the Wednesday Night Wars? What show do you guys want me to start with? Why don't we let's do AEW. We're going to start with Dynamite. First of all, let me say this about the ratings. This was random as hell. Listen to these ratings. After AEW, for the most part of it, has been dominating the ratings every week, they not only lost to NXT this week, but lost by a big margin. And I don't understand why, because NXT didn't have anything really advertised that was that great. The triple threat main event we knew was going to be good, but they've had plenty of good main events like that advertised, and they've still lost in the ratings. So I have no idea why this was so lopsided, but NXT scored 786,000 viewers to Dynamite's 633. So that's a difference of 153,000 viewers. That's a big win for them, and I don't know why. But good for NXT. But that was just so random to me because there's been plenty of weeks where I've thought that NXT had the better show and in some cases had the far better show, and they've still lost in the ratings. And there's been plenty of weeks where I think AEW has the better show. This week is actually one of them. If I had to grade it, I'm giving AEW the nod this week by just a hair, but not much. And they lost in the ratings. So go figure. Who knows? But anyway, let's talk about Dynamite. Like I said, we're doing the Super Cliffs Notes version here. I don't want to go through all this stuff because I do want to preview the Fyter Fest card. We had Wardlow taking on Luchasaurus in a really fun lumberjack match. This was pretty fun. Everybody was getting involved here. Marco Stunt and MJF and Jungle Boy, and everybody was going to town here in this thing. It was really fun. Not a bad match at all. I think we had Luchasaurus doing a shooting star press off the platform at one point, which was crazy. In the end, Wardlow nails Lucha with a low blow and hits the F10 for the win in that. So all the interference and all the craziness kind of added to that. And it was a good way to have these two guys fight without really having a clear cut, clean winner. Because I don't want to see either one of these guys beat right now clean. I like them both. And how'd Wardlow manage not to get signed by WWE? Doesn't Wardlow remind you exactly of somebody that WWE would want, that Vince would want? He's got that Roman Reigns look to him. How did he ever pass through NXT? How did he not wind up there? Anyway, big win for him over Luchasaurus. What'd you guys think of the Cody Rhodes and Jake Hager press conference? A little weird, huh? A little weird there. They tried to do it like UFC or boxing style. Cody was there first. Jake Hager was not. Then him and his wife showed up at the end. They do the little stare down there for the photo op. Jake Hager's wife splashes water in Cody's face and, a little pull apart there. It was a little weird to me. A little weird. But, they're trying different things and, whatever. We had Brody Lee teaming up with Colt Cabana. That was kind of set up last week. The Dark Order is really trying to heavily recruit Colt. They defeated new BFFs, Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. After the match, Lance Archer shows up and beats the hell out of both of them. Janela will be facing Lance Archer, by the way, at Fyter Fest. Really good and fun tag team match with FTR defeating SCU. We had the Butcher and the Blade, I guess, commandeered the FTR's truck and drove into the arena with it. And while FTR is fixated on them in the truck, from behind them appear the Lucha Brothers. Haven't seen them on TV in a while, I don't think either. And I'm ready to see that match. Holy crap. Holy crap. I want to see that. Phoenix and Pentagon and Wilder and Wheeler and whatever the hell their name is. Man, that's going to be some good stuff. Tag team division's off the hook right now in AEW. Love it. Lucha Brothers attack. Young Bucks make the save, and I guess they're going to do a big 8-man tag coming up. That's also going to be at Fyter Fest, I think, and we're about to preview that card now. We had Brian Cage taking on Joe Cruz. Apparently, this was supposed to be Moxley. It was supposed to be Moxley getting the squash, but he, of course, had to quarantine himself due to his, kind of secondhand exposure to the COVID, being married to Renee Young and all. So instead, it was Cage beating the crap out of this poor guy. Taz was on commentary for that. After the match, Taz gets in the ring and does a pretty good promo right into the camera with the token shit line. They have to say shit once every week on AEW. On TNT, and that was a pretty good promo by Taz. Still Taz. We'll see if this match even happens, but if it does, if everything works out fine with Moxley, he's able to defend the title. I'm really surprised they gave Brian Cage the match this quick because I don't think he'll win the title. I don't think. Is he? I don't think he is. I wouldn't put the title on him here. It's not the time or the opponent to do it. I'd keep it on Mox for a while and build for something bigger. This seems to be kind of thrown together. We'll see. We'll see what winds up happening. As long as Moxley is able to defend the title, I'm not sure if he just straight up beats Cage the way he beat Hager or the way he beat Brody Lee, but he might. And if he does, where does Brian Cage go from there? I feel like you've got to do something shady to kind of keep Cage somewhat strong so Taz can keep talking smack on the mic. Very fun Britt Baker and Big Swole stuff. That was good. I'm really loving Britt Baker. I joked about this last week that I want her to get better. I do not like to see her injured, but to me, she's far more entertaining on her little mobile with the pulley system, sending promos to Shivani than, maybe being in the ring. But really good stuff there. Laughed my ass off at that whole segment. We had Broken Matt defeating Santana. He was beaten down by Proud and Powerful after the match. Private Party came out there and made the save, so that was kind of random. And we had the big main event. It was the face-off with Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho. Jericho cuts a blistering promo on Orange Cassidy. Cassidy starts doing the spot with the shin kicks and the big super kick. Jericho rips off Orange Cassidy's sunglasses, breaks him in half. Cassidy snaps. They fight, brawling all the way on the outside of the ring. Jericho hits Orange Cassidy right in the side of the head with a camera. He's bleeding from the ear. They wind up finding themselves like up on a balcony, and Orange Cassidy comes flying in with a Superman punch to Jericho. He flies back through a table. Orange Cassidy's got a brand new pair of glasses on, puts them on, and the show goes off the air. So Cassidy looked good. I think Jericho's going to beat him. Judas Effect pin him. But still, I think, really good rub. And this is kind of cool that Jericho is doing this. And somebody brought up a really good point, too. I saw Jericho retweet it, some fan. Had said that it's kind of cool to see Jericho in there working with these guys. He's had matches with Pineapple Pete, with Marco Stunt, now with Orange Cassidy. It's good to see Jericho in the ring with younger, up-and-coming talent or talent trying to make it, trying to advance themselves on the card. And he's essentially giving opportunities to people. He's giving opportunities that he never got in WCW. You know, when you look back to his situation there and that debacle with Goldberg and how he was constantly having to fight an uphill battle with all the top stars that didn't want to do business, that didn't want to help out the young guys, that gave absolutely zero shits about the future of the business, and it caused him to leave. It caused a lot of talent to leave. Because of that mentality and because of that line of thinking, Jericho, Benoit, Saturn, Malenko, Eddie, they all left because of that very reason right there. So the fact that Jericho is now in AEW at age 50 years old, giving back a little bit, I think is kind of cool. You know, he was the right guy to have as their inaugural champion. He needed to be there. He was that big name to help get that company going. Now he's passed that title off to Moxley, another pretty big name in the business, and now he's using his time to go out there and give the rub to the next generation. And prior to Sammy Guevara's suspension, I think everything he's doing with Sammy Guevara has been helpful for Sammy too. With Les Sex Gods, and Jericho has really helped get Sammy Guevara over. And speaking of Sammy Guevara, I feel like he's going to survive this. You know, nobody is condoning it for a minute what he said, but so far his apologies, the way he's handled it, has been pretty well received by people. I've even had other female wrestlers come out and talk about what a stand-up guy he is. I mentioned that. I met him on the cruise. I said, I'd if I had to leave him in a room alone with my girlfriend, I would feel completely safe with that. He doesn't come off as that, you know, dirty, douchey, just dirty man. You know, he said something incredibly stupid. I saw one stupid take saying, "Oh, just what teenage kids did, just a random slang. That's the way kids talk." I was a teenager once. I never once joked about which women I want to rape. Not once. I was never on the school bus or never sitting at the lunchroom table at school discussing that subject. So that's bullshit. And nobody is condoning, like I said, what Sammy did, but I think this will blow over for him, and I think he'll be able to resume his career at the present time. He's suspended, and they're donating his salary to charity until he comes back. So I think he will. I think Sammy will survive this. He owned up to it. He faced the music. Sasha accepted his apology. People have come out in defense of him. Of all the people accused of stuff, I think he's in the best position because he didn't commit any crimes. He said something extremely stupid, you know, but saying it and doing it are two completely different things, and I think Sammy will be back, and I think that makes Devlin Husband very happy. Isn't that right, Dev? We love Sammy. He's a great dude. Let's look at Fyter Fest. We got to take a look at this now. This is a 2-night event. It begins this Wednesday, July 1st, and night 2 will be on July 8th. For night 1, this is the lineup, at least what I have here. Now, this is the lineup according to AEW. We've got Cody Rhodes taking on Jake Hager for the TNT Championship. That's going to be on night 1. Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega defending against the Best Friends, defending the AEW Tag Team titles against the Best Friends, I should say. We've got Hikaru Shida defending the AEW Women's title against Penelope Ford. We've got MJF and Wardlow versus Jurassic Express. I'm assuming that's a handicap match. And Private Party versus Santana and Ortiz, which was kind of set up this past Wednesday when they made the stave for Broken Matt on night 2. Scheduled is Jon Moxley defending the AEW title against Brian Cage. Hopefully that match still happens. We've also got Chris Jericho taking on Orange Cassidy. The big 8-man tag that was set up on Wednesday night, FTR and the Young Bucks taking on the Lucha Brothers and the Butcher and the Blade. SCU versus the Dark Order, Lance Archer versus Joey Janela, and Nyla Rose versus an opponent to be named later. That's the card that I have. If I'm missing anything or if I've got one on there that's wrong, feel free to let me know in the chat. So Fyter Fest is shaping up okay. NXT is trying their best. I mean, next week they're going to have the Great American Bash theme. I don't know how well that's going to fare in night 1, but in night 2, the following week, that's when they've scheduled the big Adam Cole and Keithley match, which we're about to talk about in a second here. So that was your AEW. I liked the show, and I think I liked it just slightly better than NXT this week, and I'm about to get into NXT here in a second, but overall, I think I preferred AEW just a hair more, and a lot of times my reason is the same every time. It's because I feel like AEW gives me a more well-rounded wrestling show with a little bit more variety. Just a little bit more, NXT is trying. I've been loving the Roderick Strong therapy stuff and some of the things they've been doing there. But overall, like AEW seems more of that like wacky, anything can happen wrestling show, where NXT still seems very, a little bit more rigid than that. That's just my opinion. Anyway, but NXT was not a bad show at all. Like I said, they absolutely crushed AEW in the ratings. So we had Cameron Grimes defeating Damien Priest. Now, Damien was kind of selling the attack from last week. I think Cameron attacked him like in the parking lot or something like that. So Damien's selling the injury there, and Cameron Grimes scores a big win, big win over Damien Priest, who apparently now is a babyface, and I'm having trouble getting behind that. So we'll see. I've had trouble relating to him in that way, but we'll see how it goes. I like Cameron Grimes, though. He is an absolute trip, and he's from Burlington, North Carolina. I've been there a few times, or at least driven through it. I think I took a dump there once. But yeah, good old Burlington. We had Dexter Lumis defeating Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong straight up ran away again. He got spooked in the match and just bolted, much like he did last week when they were trying to get him to go into the trunk. And earlier on in the night, he had more therapy where he actually did conquer the trunk. They got him in there. He didn't run away this time. He finally realized that Kyle O'Reilly was a therapist, by the way, so good for him. And then in the match with Dexter, he got freaked and he just left, ran away, and got counted out. So I just love the way he runs away. It's so hilarious to me. Here was a match that was fun. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzales, who Mauro Ranallo is now referring to as Big Mommy Cool. Is that what he said? And we all compared her to Diesel, but they might be taking a little bit too far with that, rubbing it on a little thick. But anyway, they defeated Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter, and the spot of the match here was Raquel Gonzales, who I don't think even Chyna, any other powerhouse woman that we've seen, I haven't seen specific feats of strength like this yet from a woman wrestler. This was incredible. At one point in the match, Raquel has got Casey Catanzaro up in like a one-handed power bomb position. Now, granted, Casey Catanzaro weighs 64 pounds, but she's still got her up there, and while she's got her up, holding her up with one hand, she gives a big boot to Caden Carter. So she's got Casey up here, she boots Caden Carter, and then she slams Casey down on a one-handed power bomb. Absolutely amazing feat of strength there. She would be great at Festivus. And I'm loving me some Raquel. I'm loving this Shawn and Diesel vibe I'm getting from Dakota and Raquel Gonzales. I actually think Raquel Gonzales and Sonya Deville would make a fun team because they look alike, don't they? They could be sisters, except one's giant, one's little. And I mean, you put them together, that could be a pretty good 1-2 punch as well. Although maybe Sonya doesn't really need a bodyguard because she's a badass anyway. I don't know. But every time I see Raquel Gonzales, she just looks like a giant Sonya Deville to me. But that was really impressive. I'm liking her a lot, and I really like the team of Dakota and Raquel. They're two of my favorites in NXT. We had Karrion Kross choking out Bronson Reed. This match was set up last week. Bronson challenged him, I believe. They had the match here. It was competitive, a little bit more competitive than maybe some of his more recent matches aside from Ciampa, but still very decisive victory. No real doubt there. You know Karrion Kross is not losing anytime soon, and he's certainly not going to lose to that guy. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here with Karrion. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We had Rhea Ripley killing Aaliyah in a match, so Rhea defeated her. Robert Stone is still trying to recruit Rhea Ripley. She threw him like in a trash can or something last week, and this week I think he got beat up a little bit during the match because he was all interfering in that. Backstage later on, they set up a handicap match for next week. It's going to be Rhea Ripley taking on Aaliyah and Robert Stone. And I guess the stip here is if Rhea loses, she has to join his crew. She has to join his faction, which I think is a faction of one at this point. And that'll be interesting to see if they do that. You know, if they'll just do it for fun. It's a handicap match, pull some crazy stuff. Rhea loses, and she has to join his faction, and then eventually Rhea will snap and beat the crap out of both of them again. We'll see if she either just straight up beats him next week or if she actually loses and has to join. They might do the losing thing and have her join, just to give her something to do storyline-wise until she finds her way back to the title. And correct me if I'm wrong, we're getting Io Shirai and Sasha, right? Getting Io Shirai and Sasha, I believe. Is that this week on NXT as well? I think it is. So there's lots of good matches being set up here this Wednesday night. It's going to be awesome. And, of course, in the main event, we had the big triple threat, Keithley defending the North American title against Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor. The winner of this faces Adam Cole in 2 weeks, head-to-head with night number 2 of Fyter Fest. And I had predicted last week, I actually predicted right after In Your House, that the guy to take the belt off of Adam Cole will be Keithley. And when Adam Cole was confronted by Scarlett a couple of weeks ago, I thought they were taking a detour there, but it looks like they're back on track here. Really good match, really good main event. It was almost enough to give the nod here for me in terms of which show I thought was better, was the strength of this main event, but I still wound up picking AEW just by a tiny little hair. But really good here, got the outcome I wanted. Keithley retains the title. He now faces Adam Cole, and I think this is it. What does Adam Cole really have left to do? You know, I kind of wanted to wait until fans came back to the arenas and we can have Adam Cole drop the title after this long run in a big way, but I'm also a ginormous Keith Lee fan. I love Keith Lee. I want to see this guy be pushed to the moon. He's one of my absolute favorites across all 3 brands right now. And for him to win here, to me, makes the most sense because there's so much you can do with that. Keith Lee can put down Adam Cole. You can move Adam Cole or the entire Undisputed Era to the main roster if you want. Keith Lee can then have a good, healthy, solid title run where he's just putting down everybody. And I don't think they could, but I don't think they're going to allow him to be a double champion. So if he wins the title, because I think, is it title for title or is it just Cole's title on the line? If this thing, for any reason, is title for title, it almost gives away the ending, almost like WrestleMania 6 style. Why would Adam Cole win the North American title? He's already been the North American champion. He doesn't need it on his legacy. Why would he win a secondary title when he's already the world champion? It wouldn't make any sense. So if it's title for title, then Keith Lee's winning this thing hands down. And if he does, if it was up to me, I would put the North American title up in a tournament and I would give it to Johnny Gargano because Johnny Gargano's awesome. And then maybe Johnny Gargano can then pass it to Balor, or Balor can get into the world title picture or what. I mean, and if Keith Lee does beat Adam Cole, I would love to see Keith Lee and Balor for the title in a title match at some point between now and the end of the year. And then after Keith Lee has a healthy little run with it, and Karrion Kross continues to dominate, and provided WWE doesn't get too ahead of themselves here and just kind of takes their time, I think eventually Keith Lee runs into Karrion Kross and drops the belt to Karrion Kross. That would be the way I would do it, and we laid out that scenario on my NXT In Your House review. That same night, we talked about this whole thing. You know, we said this is what they should do, and it appears that might actually be the direction that they're going in. So if Keith Lee does wind up winning the title, I'm curious if they will let him defend both belts or if they use that as a way to pass the North American title to someone without having to beat Keith Lee. And I think if you put it up in a tournament, that's some TV filler for you there. You know, you can tape that whole damn tournament in one day just to ensure that no positive COVID tests are going to affect the outcomes of anything or affect the matches, and just do it. And you give the belt to Gargano. That can be a nice little centerpiece for him and Candice to do their thing. That's what I'd do. That's what I'd do. So we'll see in 2 weeks what happens there. But you guys agree? Cole going down? I think Cole's going down. He's going down. So yeah, that's a wrap there, both on NXT and AEW. Like I said, they are both good shows, but in my mind, they were both mediocre shows. And I just guess I enjoyed Dynamite a little bit more as just a wrestling show. You know, I like the atmosphere there. I've said that. I like the environment. I like the building, the arena, the ring setup, the fans, everything they do aesthetically and just from an experience point of view. I like AEW more. And maybe that's why that helps Dynamite in my mind. because NXT was not a weak show at all. But they had a big win in the ratings, so good for them. And that probably makes WWE very happy. Let's talk about last night's SmackDown a little bit as well, and then I also want to run through the Extreme Rules card that I have. And then and I want to answer a couple more Super Chats, and then I'm out of here. Yeah, Brian Bird, I mentioned the low-key stuff at the very beginning. He's too stupid to give any attention to. The hell with that guy. Let me knock out the Super Chats before we get into last night's SmackDown, which, again, is going to be very short because there's not much to talk about there. Okay, I didn't miss anybody, right? No, I did. K-Dog's Kennel. All right, just one. Where'd you go? There you are. Thank you, man, for the $5, and good to see you in here again, as always. Had Hogan not been revealed as the third man at Bash at the Beach in 1996, do you think the NWO would have had the success had someone else been the outsider's third? Well, the only one it was going to be was Sting. If Hogan didn't do it, it was going to be Sting. I think that would have been successful too, but maybe not as successful as Hulk. Sting would have been great because he would have been one of theirs. It's because Hogan made sense because he was in WWE. So him being the third man was pretty, obvious there just because of his history. But in terms of betraying WCW, because that's all that Shivani and Heenan and Dusty were saying, he betrayed WCW. I'm like, he was only there 2 years. It's not like, well, he doesn't have any loyalty to you guys. He was there 2 years. He was in the WWE for 10. So why wouldn't he betray WCW? Where Sting would be a whole different story. Sting is literally the poster boy, aside from maybe Flair. But Sting is, the big baby face. He is their top. Prior to Hogan coming in, he was their Hogan. He was their Ultimate Warrior. So I think the NWO would have been pretty cool had Sting been the third man, but you would have not gotten those promos. I don't think Sting could have cut a promo the way Hogan did in the heat of the NWO, in the middle of the ring on Nitro with Bischoff holding the mic. Go back and watch those promos too. You'll notice it every time. Go back and watch the Nitros when Hogan's cutting a promo, and as Bischoff's holding the mic, Bischoff is saying the promo with him. Like he's moving his mouth. It's like, because they rehearsed it or whatever. So to watch Bischoff just say the promo with Hulk is pretty funny. You can see him doing it literally in every promo. But I think that it would have been successful, yes, but no way. There's no way it could have been as successful or more than the NWO that we got. All right, I think that catches us up there. Let's talk about last night's SmackDown, which was heavily altered because of all of the COVID tests. They had to change a couple of things. They had AJ Styles and Drew Gulak scheduled to meet for the Intercontinental title. That was moved and removed totally. They also had a big segment with Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, some sort of a toast that has been postponed until next week. So they're doing the big toast between Hardy and Sheamus next week instead. So that eliminated a couple of really big segments and matches from the show, which wasn't leaving them with much. And I mentioned earlier on that we did finally see some face masks being worn in the audience there, which was good. And apparently they are stopping too. I didn't mention this in the beginning of the show. Apparently they're not going to continue with the letting friends and family in, which was probably a stupid idea anyway. They're not doing that. And apparently they're also looking into actually having fans in the arena sometime by the end of the summer. They're looking at different cities in Florida to actually have paid fans in attendance. To me, they should be talking about shutting down, and they're actually talking about holding shows in buildings with fans, which is crazy. But one part about that story that I found interesting is one of the cities they were looking into was Lakeland, Florida. Now, I have a personal tie to Lakeland because my grandmother who's still alive, she lives here. She's completely delusional, and she's very old. She's 96. We moved her out here to California about 5 years ago to put her in. She's basically with hospice care, and she's got round-the-clock care. But back in the day, she lived with my grandfather down in Florida. So once a year, I would drive down to Lakeland from North Carolina to visit them because the reason they moved to that town, they lived in Michigan and they did what all old people do. They retired down to the South. But they moved to Lakeland because that's where the Detroit Tigers play their spring training games. And my whole family was originally from Detroit, so I would drive down there every spring to go watch the Tigers play in Lakeland and to visit my grandparents. And it's not a huge town, really, in Florida. So they must have a little convention center there or something that WWE is eyeballing. But the fact that they said Lakeland, I used to be in Lakeland all the time. So, side story there, completely pointless, but I thought I'd share it with you guys. Like I said, last night's SmackDown was not much. We had a couple of things bumped, and the show was basically centered around this big tribute to The Undertaker, which was very weird. Did it give you guys a weird vibe? Gave me a weird vibe. I didn't know what to make of this tribute. They keep saying he's retired. The Boneyard match with AJ Styles was the last match. That might have been why they bumped Gulak and AJ from this, as if they were going to show the entire Boneyard match, which they did. The entire Boneyard match replayed last night on SmackDown, which is a great match. It's cool. I mentioned earlier that WWE should be playing reruns. I don't think they need to replay. I think they already replayed the Boneyard match on Raw once. Now they're replaying it on SmackDown too. If they want to fill time, I think they can be a little bit more creative with their time. And they made this big tribute to The Undertaker, and he wasn't even there, and the whole thing was just weird. I didn't understand it. It was just weird. Jeff Hardy and Baron Corbin were involved in this. Baron Corbin came out to the ring, cut a shoot promo on The Undertaker, kind of a shoot promo, talking smack to him. Jeff Hardy takes exception to that and basically comes out to represent The Undertaker, which leads to a match in the main event. And Hardy beat him. After the match, Corbin attacks Jeff Hardy, but then gets killed by Braun Strowman, The New Day, Matt Riddle. They all get in the ring with him and take turns beating the crap out of him. Apparently, they're setting up for a Matt Riddle and Baron Corbin little program, which will be cool because we know Riddle will wear that, or will win that. And the whole show went off the air with Jeff Hardy kind of doing like the Undertaker pose to a big shot of Undertaker on the big screen. So it's just weird. It didn't feel right. I don't understand what the hell they were doing there. To me, it just looked like they were trying to fill 2 hours, and that's what they did to fill half of that. But the other half of the show, prior to the main event and all the Undertaker stuff, we saw a couple of things. A really, really, really fun 8-man tag match with the New Day and the Lucha House Party defeating Miz and Morrison and Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. Lince Dorado, very, very impressive here. When I watched him, it's like I talked about earlier on when I proposed the question to you guys. I said, what would you do if you were an underneath guy trying to make it or want to get noticed? Do you take advantage of the COVID, or, do you protect yourself? What would you do? And Lince Dorado is a guy that, to me was able to shine. I want to see more of him, more and more of him. He's great. We had Braun Strowman. Oh, wait, let's talk about that in a minute. Nikki Cross also earned a title shot. She's going to face Bayley now at Extreme Rules. She defeated Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and her buddy Alexa Bliss in a fatal 4-way, for a number 1 contender shot. So that's going to be fun and different. In terms of Extreme Rules, I like both women's matches. Asuka, Sasha, Bayley, Nikki, sure. What is there to complain about that? All the fans have been doing is saying too much Becky, too much Charlotte, too much Nia Jax. None of them are anywhere near this. I'm liking what I'm seeing for Extreme Rules, believe it or not. George isn't at home, so leave a message at the beep. Seinfeld fans. Other than that, the only other thing to talk about was the Strowman stuff. New Day and Lucha House Party won their match. Nikki's new number 1 contender. We had the big Taker tribute, and Braun Strowman has a segment called Story Time. Could you guys understand what the hell he was talking about? Basically, he's like, I'm going to tell you about the time I first met Bray Wyatt. I'm in the swamp. He said he's sitting in a swamp and then like a water moccasin. And I used to live in North Carolina. I know what water moccasins are. You got to be careful of those things in the rivers and stuff. And he said, a water moccasin came up to me and it bit me or something. And basically the snake is Bray Wyatt, I think is what he was trying to say. Anyway, after he tells this long, elaborate, crazy story that I could not make heads or tails of and was making me a little bit dizzy, to be honest, he proposes a swamp match against Bray Wyatt for Extreme Rules. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to do another one of these off-site cinematic type matches, which I'm all for. It'll probably be somewhat reminiscent of the deal that Orton and Bray Wyatt did. What was that called? What was that called? I forgot what that was called. Whatever Orton and Bray Wyatt did, where he burned down the house and all that. We had the final deletions or something too, and the stuff in the Lake of Reincarnation. We've seen some stuff happen in the water and everything. This, I would assume, is going to be filmed at night, just like the Boneyard match was, and everything else that they've done like this is going to be filmed at night. But my question is, where are they going to do this? In the middle of the Everglades? One of the biggest risks and threats in Florida is the alligators. They're everywhere. Even when I told you guys I used to drive down to Florida to visit my grandparents, they lived in like a little modular home in like this little community with all old people, and alligators would be walking down the street, in that place. Like, they were everywhere. So if they're going to be going to the middle of some swamp, they better get that thing netted off and light it and make sure it's safe before these guys get into any body of water in Florida. And normally you would say, well, Greg, don't be stupid. Of course WWE is going to protect their guys. Really? Because have they done that with COVID? No. So if they let one of these guys get killed by an alligator, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. It's what they do. We've seen negligence. We've seen WWE negligence kill people before. So be careful, WWE. Watch what you're doing. Do you guys think, I also have this written down because it just made me think of it. You know how some of the released talent has come back, Drake Maverick and maybe a few others. Do you think maybe Rowan reappears here or something in this match if they bring him back in to be a part of this? Because they are tying into the history between Bray Wyatt and Strowman. Can't have Brody Lee. He's in AEW, but you could maybe bring Eric Rowan back in, get him some work. I was really surprised they released him to begin with after they had invested so much in what was in the cage. They let him go. So maybe he can get back involved here and maybe appear just for a one-shot deal or something in the match. Why not? Wouldn't be surprised if maybe they did something with him. And I guess in this match, what do you guys think we're going to see? We're going to see Funhouse Bray, old school Bray Wyatt. Do we get a Fiend appearance in this match? Maybe at the very end. Like, what I envision happening here is Strowman winning, beating like old 2013 Bray Wyatt, pinning him in the dirt or in the water or wherever. And after it's over, like the Fiend pops up out of the water or something. You know how Jeff Hardy changed into, what is his weird, I don't even know what's going on. Those old deletion deals where Jeff Hardy would come out as a different person out of the water. What was he called? I forgot what he was called. Willow the Wisp, right? Or is it Wisp the Willow? Something like that. So maybe it'll be a deal like that with Bray Wyatt. Like, Strowman will throw him in the swamp or something and he'll sink and he'll just be gone. And maybe he doesn't even pin him. Maybe he just throws him in the swamp and he disappears. He drowned. I win. And then maybe after it's over, the Fiend comes up through the water. Vince at WrestleMania 19, right? Coming up above of the ring apron, blood on his face. Maybe it's something like that with the Fiend, and that sets up a SummerSlam deal between the two with the Fiend versus Strowman. Maybe. I don't know what to make of it. Swamp match. I think it'll be good because every time WWE's done something like this, it has been good. So there's no reason for me to think it won't be. Just be careful. I would like to think that a company like this could be trusted and not get these guys eaten by alligators, but you never know. So just be careful out there. And that leaves us with the Extreme Rules card. 5 matches I have written down here so far, and really none of them are that bad. Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title against Dolph Ziggler. Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman in a swamp match. I'm assuming that's for the Universal title, but it might not be. Did Strowman in his promo, I wasn't even listening to him because it was crazy. Did he suggest that it would be a title match? I'll put the title on the line in a swamp match. Or did he just say, I want to fight you in a swamp match? Don't know. So we'll have to wait and see there. But if that's for the title, I don't know. Swamp match. First title to change hands in a swamp. Whatevs. Like I said, the women's matches look great. Very good looking women's matches here. Asuka and Sasha, I am ready for that. Sign me up. And Bayley and Nikki Cross is going to be really fun as well. Now, I also think Asuka might be a fun person to stick in NXT. Sasha's going to be taking on Io Shirai. Something's going to get messed up there, like Bayley interferes or something. Maybe Asuka makes the save, and then for the Great American Bash or one of the shows going up against Fyter Fest, you do Io Shirai and Asuka versus Bayley and Sasha. All 3 women's champion, every single women's champion will be in the ring at the same time. All 3 world champions and the tag team champions. That would be a great match. That's what I'd do. Io and Asuka versus Bayley and Sasha, and that would be fun. Damn, that would be fun. Yeah, I hope we get that. So at least on paper, Extreme Rules doesn't look that weird. The horror show tagline made no sense until Braun Strowman did the swamp match thing. So we'll see how this goes. And I also am assuming they're going to add, even though it's not official, Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, right? After we get the toast thing next week or whatever. So that'll probably be happening. We'll probably also get Matt Riddle and Baron Corbin. On the Raw side of things, I don't know what else they'll add over there. Maybe Apollo Crews and... Or actually, Andrade and Garza might be going after the tag belts. Maybe Apollo takes on Lashley. Yeah, we'll probably get Apollo and Lashley as well. So it's shaping up to not look horrible. But, you know, again, all that's subject to change because of all the COVID stuff. And it's just an absolute complete freaking mess right now. What a mess. But anyway, I somehow managed to get through all those notes, and I did it in just under 2 hours. So if you guys could still do me a favor and keep smashing that thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. I'll knock out a couple of more super chats if there are any. See if there's any other questions to answer. No, there's not. Lake of Reincarnation. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, and I think with the swamp match, you're likely to see multiple versions of Bray Wyatt. And I like Sports Fanatics' idea here of having old school Bray Wyatt to start. Bring him out, and then you can do all sorts of crazy stuff. Am I leaking a return? No, I'm not leaking a return. I'm just speculating. Don't listen to me for any news leaks. I'm not the one. I'll talk about the news, but I ain't reporting it. Because I'll be wrong all the time if I was. Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember, Vontae. Thank you for that. The tag match with New Day and the Wyatt family. Whatever, the compound match is what it was. So I get them confused. The compound match and then whatever they were calling the Orton and Bray Wyatt match. Did somebody, oh, thank you. House of Horrors match, Zane. Zane Goliath, good to see you, man. House of Horrors match. That's why it was confusing me with the horror show thing. It's just so much horror. Ugh, I don't know. But based on what they've done before, I think the swamp match will be pretty good. Just please be careful. You're in Florida. It's not a good idea to be playing in the swamp. Probably the last thing I'd recommend if I was doing that. So, whew. Brother Nero. Oh, I miss Brother Nero. That was the funniest part. I remember back in 2016. So it's been 4 years now. And I was living way close to the beach down in this little studio apartment. And it was hot that day. And I was having all these tweets and these people telling me, you got to see the deletion. Was it called? What was the first one called? The Ultimate Deletion or just the deletion? Whatever the first deletion one was. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. And that was the craziest thing. And I just could not get over the Brother Nero. Oh my God. And I remember hating it, thinking this is the dumbest stuff I've ever seen. And I turned out to love it. And man, that's been 4 years already. Jesus. But anyway. Yeah, what else do we need to talk about? That was it. I appreciate you guys hanging out and sitting through that. I apologize for ranting, but man, that earlier on, I was even when I said it at the end, I was like, man, I was harder on WWE than I expected to be. I was going to try to talk about all this just in a reasonable manner, in a reasonable tone, but as you read it, it makes you madder and madder. And that story of WWE not letting the positive tested wrestlers tell anyone literally made my blood boil. Boil, I'll tell you. My God. But anyway, what's next on the menu? What do I have for this week for you guys? Oh, yeah, it's Saturday. So 2 days from now, immediately following Monday Night Raw on Monday night, we'll be up here for another Raw review. We'll elaborate on anything else, any more news. We'll see how Raw is affected. The taping schedule is all upside down. I don't know when Raw is going to be taped. I'm guessing it's going to be taped earlier in the day on Monday, unless they've already done it. Unless they taped it Friday or yesterday. I don't know. So we'll see how Raw shapes up. On Monday, we'll see if we get any more news about any other further positive COVID tests. And anything else we need to talk about, we'll be doing that on Monday. What else do I have planned? My man Dre, I'm not sure if he's here. He is the next one in line for a live stream. And that'll be coming really soon. I was going to do that before June, but then before June was over, but then I realized it'd be better just to do that in the first week or so in July. So that'll be my next live stream, off subject live stream. Just got to nail down a date for that and make sure that the date works with Dre. Another live stream's coming after that, probably a couple of weeks later on another special topic. These are all Patreon and PayPal sponsored live streams, so those will be fun. And I am going to do some sort of, SummerSlam related stuff in the month of July. I just didn't do any crazy pay-per-view reviews this month because I was working on some stuff behind the scenes. Been working with Dan, getting some new logos done. I got a couple of new intros in the works. and, just changing a few things up. Every now and then you got to do a house cleaning, tighten some stuff up, give a few things a facelift, and just try and improve yourself as much as you can. That's what I've been doing kind of behind the scenes lately, and preoccupying myself with that. So that's why it's kind of only been limited to Monday and Saturdays and pay-per-view streams. I did chop out our Undertaker Last Ride documentary portion of the Raw review this past Monday. We spent like 20 minutes talking about that, chopped out that, and uploaded it as a standalone video on the channel right now. So if you want to hear my thoughts on The Undertaker's retirement, if I think he's going to be retired, what my thoughts are on Chapter 5 of the documentary, the possibility of him appearing at Survivor Series, appearing at the Hall of Fame next year, and everything involving The Undertaker and his retirement and the documentary. It's all up on the channel right now, so check that out if you need more good mic work. But I think that's going to wrap it up for me. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. So you guys take care. Have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight. And please join me this Monday, immediately following Raw. We'll come up here again, and I promise on Monday, maybe I'll actually have a couple of beers with you guys. So y'all be good. Take care, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Be good. Peace.